Welcome to the Travis on Sports podcast, where I discuss the latest news from around the sports world. As always, I'm your host, Travis Tyler. I'm a freelance sports writer and blogger. You can find some of my work on the Ultimate Sports Networks and on the footballsavant.com, as well as listening to the Football Savant podcast, which is my other podcast that I run. Been unable to record new episodes for the last couple of weeks due to some personal stuff and some career stuff and just in general things getting in the way. But I'm back now, so let's get to it. Obviously, there's been a lot happening, and I'm not going to be able to get to all of it in this episode, but I will get in what I can in the amount of time I have. Today is Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Today's episode, we have a World Series champion, but there are also reports of a possible, maybe even probable work stoppage coming in December. I'll give my monthly NFL thoughts. There was some movement on the Deshaun Watson front before last week's NFL trade deadline. There have been some updates in MLB manager and front office searches. Plus, I'll update the latest that I've found on Ben Simmons, some NCAAF coaching news, and an MLB retirement from last week. The Atlanta Braves won the 2021 World Series last Tuesday by defeating the Houston Astros 7-0. Atlanta won the series in 6 games, 4-2, and it was the Braves' first World Series appearance since 1999, and it's their first title since 1995, their 4th World Series title overall. Braves outfielder Jorge Soler was named the World Series MVP after hitting .300 with 3 homers, 6 RBIs. Those 3 homers were all go-ahead homers, and he even hit one on Tuesday night to break the scoring open. The Braves have been close to getting back to the World Series for a couple of years after losing the NFC East to the Dodgers last season, but some thought going into the season they would take a step back. After a bit of a slow start, their pitching came around, and then star outfielder Ronald Acuna might be the best young player in baseball. Lost for the season just when the team was starting to come together. The Braves actually in the postseason were on their 3rd lineup of outfielders, and that is just really a big testament to the skill of the front office of acquiring depth, finding talent, and makes the title more impressive. It's also a testament to the coaches on developing that talent and getting the best out of their players. Now, unfortunately, reports have surfaced about a possible MLB work stoppage that would take effect at the beginning of December. The current CBA ends December 1st, and the work stoppage would start December 2nd. The last story I saw about it was from a couple weeks ago when I originally wrote this script, and I just looked again to see if there were any updates, and it was still pretty much the same old story. So it would be the 9th work stoppage the league has had, but the first since the 94-95 strike that canceled the World Series. Some people will say it cost the Expos a World Series because they were playing lights out baseball at that time, had the best team in baseball, and didn't get a chance to show it. The MLB and Players Association have been discussing a new CBA because the current deal ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on December 1st. So really midnight Eastern pretty much. The stoppage would mean a freezing of the free agent market and jeopardizing at least spring training, maybe even more further into the season. Team executives and player representatives have reportedly received no notification or parameters for off-season activities and signings and all that. Now, some signings have happened over the past couple of days, but the lack of communication could signal that the negotiations are not going well. Some of the big negotiating issues are the possibility of adding a payroll floor and changing the overall requirements to become a free agent. Now, we are approaching Week 10 in the NFL, and the landscape of the league is starting to take shape. The Detroit Lions are still the only winless team at 0-8. They've been competitive in most of the games, except they looked pathetic against Philadelphia right before the bye week. They will play Pittsburgh right after the bye week. It's been mostly untimely mistakes and some talent discrepancies that kept them from getting the win, but I credit the coaches for keeping them in a lot of the games. I think they're going to pull one out with one of these remaining 9 games. but they are losing chances. Houston is the only remaining one-win team after Miami and Jacksonville pulled off wins over the last weekend. One of the biggest surprises this year has been the Arizona Cardinals. We knew Cliff Kingsbury's offense would get going at some point, but they've actually done a really good job fixing the defense. It's a little early to tell, but I mean, we're almost halfway through, pretty much halfway through, depending on how you look at it. And Arizona is in first place in the NFC West, showing signs reminiscent of early Chiefs teams when, Alex Smith was there and Patrick Mahomes was about to come in. They'll be battling with the LA Rams, who until Sunday had only lost to Arizona, but now have also lost to the Tennessee Titans. Arizona's first loss came in week 8 against the Packers, and they need to avoid their second half collapse that they usually have had under Cliff Kingsbury in the second half of the season. Seattle gets Russell Wilson back. That'll help them a lot. But both Seattle and San Francisco falling behind the curve and have dealt with injuries. We're expected to compete this year. You can't quite count them out yet, but they definitely have an uphill battle. The Cowboys appear to be the best team in the NFC East, even after an inexplicable loss to the Broncos, where the Broncos just completely demolished them, dominated them in every aspect. The defense for Dallas has gotten better, and it's amazing how different the team is with Dak Prescott in the lineup. It's not an elite defensive unit, but it's not nearly the Swiss cheese with all the holes in it that it was last year, and Dan Quinn is helping a lot, and it's helping them get some wins. Now, as I say that, the Swiss cheesiness kind of showed up on Sunday against Denver, so they need to get back to the drawing board and fix that. The rest of the division is just awful. Washington's taking steps back. Really need a franchise quarterback in Washington, I think, plus some better players on offense, and the defense hasn't played as well as they were expecting. Giants have actually had some decent, surprising wins. The Eagles about the same as the Giants. None of the rest of the teams are better than 3-6 on the season, and Dallas is 6-2 and seems to be running away with that. In the NFC North, the Packers, everybody panicked when they got throttled by the Saints in Week 1, but the Packers have won most of their games since then. I think the only loss they had since then was to Kansas City on Sunday when Jordan Love was there instead of Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers helps them a lot. As I said on my other podcast, the Football Swap podcast, I would be worried about team's future without Aaron Rodgers if I'm a Green Bay fan. But for now, Aaron Rodgers takes them to a new level, and they are also seemingly running away with their division. Tampa Bay, a few weeks ago, it seemed like they were running away with the NFC South, but New Orleans is actually right behind them just by a game. But, I said this when Jameis Winston was still healthy. I wouldn't trust the New Orleans quarterbacks in the playoffs and down the stretch just because of their experience or inexperience, really. Jameis Winston, turns the ball over a lot, but now that he's out, Taysom Hill's never been a full-time starting quarterback in the NFL. Trevor Siemian's career backup except for the 1 year where he was really good, but just neither one of those guys are franchise quarterbacks. If the Saints do anything, it's more because of Alvin Kamara and how good of a coach Sean Payton is at getting his guys to rally around and rally together. The rest of the division, Atlanta's 500 right now at 4-4, but they've beaten some really, really bad teams and even gotten destroyed by some really bad teams. So it's hard to tell with them. They don't really have a great defense. Their offense is really going through a rebuild. Calvin Ridley's not there anymore, taking a break from football. It hasn't been announced as an official retirement. It's just been announced as a break. I believe he said it was mental health, but I'm not positive on that. And Kyle Pitts is really the guy they're having to lean on the offense right now. Matt Ryan towards the end of his career. So Atlanta playing better than they're expected for now, but still not a good team. Carolina started 3-0. They're 4-5 now. Sam Darnold's out for a few weeks with a fractured shoulder. Offense is beginning to sputter a little bit there. It was a good story at the beginning of the year, but they seem to be one of those teams that's just fading down the stretch. And we haven't even hit the stretch yet, obviously, but they're fading before the stretch. Buffalo is easily the best team in the AFC East. one of the best offenses in the league, one of the best defenses in the league, great special teams unit. You can tell they're trying to play for something. They want to be a true Super Bowl contender. The surprise in the AFC East for me has been the Patriots, and specifically the play of Mac Jones. Played the best out of any of the current rookie quarterbacks. Seems more poised and confident with each game. A couple weeks ago, the Patriots put up 54 on the Jets, and I know it's the Jets, but the Patriots' offense has struggled for so long that they really needed an outburst like that against anybody to kind of aid their confidence and show that they can still do it. The biggest disappointment of the division has definitely been the Dolphins. Went from playoff contenders last year to now, I believe they're 2-7 on the season. I think they've played 9 games. They have 2 wins this year. Is all. Tua Tagovailoa hasn't looked very good. The offense overall hasn't looked good. The defense isn't getting the turnovers. So it's been a very difficult year for Miami, and they haven't been able to pick up where they left off. They've even lost to the Jaguars this year. Tennessee seems in control of the AFC South. They had some bad performances against the Cardinals and Jets, but they've beaten everybody else they've played. Convincing win over the Rams over the weekend. They've beaten the Colts twice. The Colts are their only competition in the AFC South, and that essentially gives them, I believe they're a game ahead of the Colts right now, but with the 2-game divisional lead, they're basically 3 games ahead of the Colts, which is almost an eternity in that division. AFC North, Cincinnati was a really nice surprise, but they've fallen back into the basement and last place in the AFC North. Shown improvements on both sides of the ball. Offense, Joe Burrow and those receivers, Joe Mixon, good combination. You can see positive things happening there. And Logan Wilson, the linebacker, emerging on defense. But they were absolutely trounced by Cleveland last week. It was the best Cleveland's looked this year, in my opinion. And no team in that division's without flaws. Most of them are on offense. I mean, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, all really good defenses. Baltimore, injuries in the running backs that kind of weathered that storm, but they're also a little unreliable in the passing game. They've had a couple games where they've been pretty good, but if I'm a team playing Baltimore, I still want to make them throw the ball on me. Pittsburgh, young, inexperienced offensive line. They're getting better and better each game after a really, really bad start. But Ben Roethlisberger, not the same quarterback he used to be. I love Ben. He's a good quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback. But it just happens with these quarterbacks. They can't play at the same level, and age gets to them and everything. And he's not moving the same. He's not throwing the ball the same. And it's likely the end of his career. And so those are the weaknesses on Pittsburgh. And with Cleveland, it's just you don't always get their offense to show up. You'll either get the running game or the passing game to show up one week or none. You won't get either one of them to show up at the same time. So these teams will beat up on each other, lots of defense, and it'll be a really good close divisional race. AFC West, all 4 teams have 5 wins. Chargers and the Raiders are 5-3. The Chiefs and the Broncos are 5-4. Chargers have looked the most consistently good to me and the most complete. They definitely have the best defense out of all of them. The Raiders' offenses looked really good. Defenses looked better, but not good enough yet. Chiefs struggling on offense when you thought they would be the best offense in the league once again, but there are mistakes being made all over the board there, and then their defense is awful. Sucks. They can't stop anybody. So that's where they're at. If they find that offense again, they might be on to something, but their defense is going to hold them back for